This is the new all-electric Mercedes Benz EQS SUV, but if I'm being completely honest, this also kind of looks like a minivan. I'm not sure if many of you remember, but back in the day, Mercedes used to have a minivan called the R-Class that stopped being sold in the US 10 years ago. So, in my opinion, looks-wise at least, this feels like an incarnation of that. My name is Omar, and this, to me, is the Mercedes EQ R-Class. By the way, it's not just the EQS SUV that gives me those minivan vibes. Even the BMW iX and the Tesla Model X have that weird design due to the pursuit of extracting as much as range as possible. The only electric SUV, in my opinion, that looks like an SUV is the Rivian R1S. Now, we'll talk more about the looks of the EQS SUV in a few minutes, but let's get right into it with the electric side of things. This is basically an SUV version of the EQS sedan. They're built on the same modular platform and everything else. You've got 3 trims to pick from, including the 450 Plus, the 450 4MATIC, and the 580 4MATIC. Now, when it comes to range, the 450 Plus will give you the most with a total of 305 miles on a full charge, while the 580 4MATIC and the 450 4MATIC both will give you 285 miles. Not bad, but not great either. The competition, including the BMW iX, of course the Tesla Model X, and even the Rivian R1S will give you more range. Now, while the base model, the 450 Plus, has a single motor and is rear-wheel drive, the other two have dual motors, making them 4MATIC all-wheel drive. The one that I'm driving here is the 450 4MATIC, so this one here makes 355 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. And that's good enough to send this super luxurious electric Mercedes from 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds while making some weird sounds. If you want to go faster, you'll have to step up to the 580, which will do 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Now, when it comes to charging this, Mercedes says that the EQS SUV will go from 0 to 100% in 12.5 hours when charging from an AC charging setup at your house. Charging in the outside world at a DC fast charging station can take you from 10 to 80% in 31 minutes, which is not bad. Alright, so now that we've got the EV part out of the way, let's talk about how this drives. And my first impression of this was that it is insanely comfortable. The ride quality in here is extremely smooth, just like how you would expect a Benz to be. I've seen some car reviewers out there say that it's not as comfortable, and honestly, I don't know what they're talking about. This offers every bit of a butter smooth ride quality that you would get in something like the GLS. Now, in terms of handling and steering, it's what you would expect from an electric SUV. It's not particularly engaging, so you're not going to be throwing this around in any corners. If you do decide to throw this into corners, just keep in mind that this does have rear-wheel steering, where the rear wheels can turn in the same or the opposite direction as the front wheels by 10 degrees to give you a better turning radius or better maneuverability. But yeah, in terms of day-to-day driving, if you're looking for a smooth riding electric SUV and don't mind it looking somewhat like a minivan, this thing will check the box. That said, let's talk about the brakes for a second. Now, just like most electric cars, this has different levels of energy recuperation that you can choose from. You can have either no recuperation, normal recuperation, or strong. In no recoup or normal recoup, this is business as usual. However, if you pop this into the strong recoup, it slows down drastically, but it does something very strange. Now check this out, the brake pedal will self-depress all on its own. Why it does that is totally beyond me, but it's the weirdest thing. It really throws off your braking perception altogether, so much so that I haven't even put this into the strong recuperation the whole week that I've been driving this. Now this has another level called intelligent recuperation, and in that setting, this will decide on its own how much braking needs to be applied. So if there's a car that comes in front of you, or if there's a bend coming up on the road ahead, this will decide how much to brake. And I don't trust it 100% of the time, because there have been moments where there's a car in front of me that I'm following and the braking didn't get applied until I got really close, so it was a little scary. Now, one more thing here that I found a little awkward was the driver's seating position. I had the same complaint in the EQS sedan, but it feels like the steering sits higher than the driver's seat, and you can never align it perfectly for a solid seating position. Nonetheless, those are my 2 biggest gripes with this. Of course, you may feel like those 2 things don't really matter, so go drive one for yourself and see how it feels in your hands. That said, I gotta say the comfortable ride quality of the EQS SUV is definitely a step above the competition. It's more comfortable than the Model X and the BMW iX, it's just not as engaging as I would want it to be. Although if you pop this into sport mode and hit the gas, or accelerator, it takes off. It's actually pretty quick. And listen to those sounds. Those are great. This actually sounds better than what BMW did with Hans Zimmer. No offense, Hans, you're a great composer, but these sounds are much better than what you've done for BMW. But yeah, this has a few sound profiles that make your driving experience a little less quiet. Now you have two sound profiles that you can pick from, including Silver Waves and Vivid Flux. Vivid Flux definitely sounds more theatrical when you push this. It sounds so cool. Now my test model also has an additional profile called Roaring Pulse. Let's take a listen to how that sounds. That sounds cool, but I think Vivid Flux still sounds a little cooler. Now Roaring Pulse is actually a part of a subscription that you can unlock in here. Yeah, BMW isn't the only one doing subscriptions. In fact, while digging around in this infotainment, I noticed under the app setting here, you see some dates saying available until a certain date. And that's because you have to pay a subscription fee to access some of those features. So yeah, for things like the Roaring Pulse sound profile, remote access, or remote starting this through the Mercedes Me app, you'll have to pay a yearly subscription fee. And get this, while digging around on their website, I found a package called Acceleration Increase for $1,200 annually or $100 a month that can increase the torque and acceleration of your EQS and drop your 0 to 60 time by 0.8 to 1 second. Who will actually pay $100 a month to go 1 second quicker? I want to meet that person. I'm sure they have the money if they're buying this, but still. So yeah, these subscription services, I'm guessing, will eventually become the norm, and it's not just the luxury brands that are doing it. That said, let's talk about the exterior design, and again, it does give me minivan vibes, but that could just be me. I had to keep reminding myself that it looks the way it does because of the pursuit of more range. It's all about aerodynamics in here and lowering the coefficient drag. I will say though, I really like the rear profile of this thing, just like I did on the EQS sedan. In my opinion, the long taillights in the back and the arches on the rear side give this a very muscular stance. Now from the front, it looks very much like the EQS sedan. It's not badly designed, but in an effort to improve aerodynamics, it just drops down very suddenly. You've got the same grille here with the Mercedes Benz stars like you do on the EQS sedan. And then you have some pretty cool looking headlights, and on my test model here, even the Mercedes Benz star lights up. That said, also like the EQS sedan, this doesn't have a frunk, so if you need to put windshield washer fluid, you have to do it right here from this little slot on the driver's side. The side profile is probably my least favorite part about the exterior, but you do have a range of some pretty sick 20 to 21 inch wheels that you can pick from. And if you're wondering, the ride height of this sits around 7.8 inches higher than the EQS sedan. All right, let's talk about the interior, because unlike the outside, the interior is a very nice place to be and a nice thing to look at. Both of the Mercedes EQS models, in my opinion, have the best interiors in the EV game when it comes to luxury and tech. The seats in here are very comfortable, and they also look very stylish. Now, depending on the trims and the options you go for, you get heated and cooled front seats. You can also get massaging seats. You can also add on a heated steering wheel to keep your hands warm. And you've got a 4-zone climate control system in here, and depending on the trim that you go for, you get Energizing Air Control Plus, which will actually clean the air inside the cabin and get rid of odors. And if one of your passengers happens to fart, the EQS also has a fragrance system in here as well to get rid of that odor. Now let's talk tech. My test model here has the optional Hyperscreen. It's standard on the 580, but optional on the two 450s. And yeah, it's massive. It's a lot of screenage going on in here that spans the whole front dash, and to me it looks super cool. Now, I know a lot of you out there hate too many screens, but I promise you, some people do like it. There are people out there that like shiny and fancy things, and this has it all. Now, in my personal experience with the Hyperscreen, it's been okay. Yes, there is a lot of tech and a lot of information that you have here, and it can be a little distracting. But it's not like you're going to be touching the screen all the time. The middle screen here is your infotainment system, and you have two layouts that you can pick from, including something called Zero Layer. This just gives you a massive navigation map with widgets laid out all on top of it. You also have a classic look, which I prefer because it's a little easier to navigate around. Of course, you get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, so you'll be okay there. But probably the most important section in here are the EQ pages, where you can go in and see what your energy consumption looks like. And you can even see which areas of the EQS SUV is using most of the energy, and you can turn them off to increase your overall range. You can also hit maximize range and it will go through and turn off everything that is sucking the most battery power. Now, if you go for the hyperscreen setup like I have here, you also get a 12.3-inch touchscreen display in front of the passenger so, they don't get bored. And don't worry, it only becomes active if someone is actually sitting in the passenger seat. Otherwise, it just gives you a bunch of choices for wallpapers that you can throw up there. The last screen that you have in here is your digital gauge cluster display. Again, I always say Mercedes has the best digital gauge cluster in the game by far. You have a ton of information and themes that you can pick from, and it's really sharp and very crisp. Beyond that, you have a ton of driver assist tech in here. You've got all the lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, blind spot, and all of that. You also have the option of adding on an augmented reality navigation system so you know exactly which turn to take. And then you have this really awesome camera game. Mercedes has went above and beyond to make sure their camera game was better than any luxury brand. You have a 360 camera, a full 3D surround view, and it's very, very helpful for when you're parking this thing. And the other area where Mercedes-Benz went above and beyond is the ambient lighting that you have in here. You have a bunch of custom colors and themes that you can pick from, and it's so bright that you can actually see the ambient lights in broad daylight. Other than that, my test model here also comes with a Burmester sound system, and it sounds fantastic. All right, so we've covered a lot, so let's pull over and check out the practicality side of things. And let's kick off the practicality side of things by checking out the legroom in this second row. Once you get back here, you have a total of 41.3 inches of legroom. I'm about 6 foot tall. That's my seating position. I sit further back than a normal human being should, and I still have a good amount of room back here. It is actually pretty comfortable to sit back here. Overall, it's pretty spacious, so you can really kick back and chill. Now, one thing I will say is that the seat cushion itself is a little bit on the smaller side, so if you have longer legs like me, your legs will kind of hang over. It feels a little bit weird, but it's not so bad. Now, optionally, you can get heated and cooled seats back here. My test model also has this tablet right here in the center armrest where you can go in and control various aspects of the rear seats, and that's really all about the tech that you can have in here. Now, you can get the EQS optionally with the third row, but I wouldn't recommend it because I think it would get a little tight. Oh, and you also have these really nice cushions for the headrest. Now let's check out the cargo capacity that you're working with. To pop open the tailgate, you just push the Mercedes-Benz logo and it opens up. You have 22.7 cubic feet behind the second row, and with the second row down, you have 74.2 cubic feet, which is pretty spacious. And you can also fold and unfold the second row seats right from back here, which you should have in a $140,000 Benz as loaded. All right, so before I give you my final thoughts on the EQS SUV, let me point out a few important daily ownership highlights that I'd love to show all of you. You have a total of 4 cup holders, 2 in the front, and then you have 2 in the back right there in the center armrest. Right there. Here are the keys to the EQS SUV. I love Mercedes-Benz's new keys. Now listen to the sound that this makes when I unlock it as a part of the whole sound experience. I don't know if you heard that. That's pretty crazy. Now listen to it when I lock it. Kind of strange. But when you unlock it, it continues to just like hum and hum and hum. So you might want to turn that off. Door close sound from the outside and the inside. Solid. Charging game wise, up front you have 2 USB-C ports right there and a wireless charger, and 2 USB-C ports right here under the center console. Those sitting in the back get 2 USB-C ports right there and a wireless charger in the center armrest. And of course, let's do an indicator and horn sound test. Indicator first. Same old Benz indicator. Now for the horn sound. That's solid. Kind of hard to push, but solid. All right, so if you're in the market for an electric SUV, should you drop your hard-earned money on the EQS SUV? Pricing for this starts at $104,400 for the base 450 Plus and $107,400 for the 450 4MATIC that I'm driving here. Of course, if you want to go faster, the 584 4MATIC is the one you want to get, and that starts at $125,950. That said, as you go through and load it up with the options, you can cross the $140,000 mark pretty easily. Which, yeah, is pretty expensive. The Tesla Model X starts at around $110,000, and you can even go for the Plaid for around $119,000. I think the Rivian R1S and the BMW iX are probably the most compelling right now in terms of price. But again, in terms of overall luxury, the EQS SUV definitely is a step above the competition. The range here isn't really impressive, but it's not terrible. The EQS models definitely hang on the range better than most EVs out there. But yeah, I would highly recommend going to test drive all the EV SUVs that you have in this segment and see which one really appeals to your wants and needs. The EQS SUV here is a really solid option, however, it does have some downsides. Some people might not like the range, the styling, or even the overbearing hyperscreen tech. Others might just want an electric vehicle with the Mercedes Benz badge, and those people won't be disappointed. Either way, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. My handle is @OmarDrives. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace. Peace out. Sound experience. Roaring pulse. Gets my pulse roaring. Whoa. Nice. I think I like Vivid Flux the best. Vivid Flux just has a lot of animation. Sounds like something out of like outer space. Haha. Nice.